Good afternoon or good morning, everyone. Hopefully everybody can see and hear us. Let me let some more people in. Just give it a few more seconds. Excuse me. Thanks for joining us today. During this webinar, we'll be talking about unleashing the full potential of hybrid work with innovative video conferencing solutions, and we'll share some tips for making the most out of hybrid work. So we're excited to have Daniel Cohen-Dumani from Withum here, as well as Josh Starkey from Neat. And I'll just take care of a couple of housekeeping items. We are recording this webinar. The presentation and the demo will probably be about 45 to 50 minutes. We encourage you to send in your questions. You have a Q&A module in this Teams webinar. Please feel free to use that feature throughout, and we will address the questions at the end. And that's pretty much it, Daniel. So take it away.
Great. Good afternoon. Good morning, everyone. My name is Daniel Cohen-Dumani. I'm a partner here with Withum, Smith & Brown. I'm in charge of Withum Digital, which focus on helping organizations and lead organizations on their digital transformation journey. I'm excited here to welcome our partner, Neat, and I'll pass it on to you, Josh, and you can tell us more about Neat.
Yeah, thanks so much, Daniel. My name is Josh Starkey. I'm a product specialist here at Neat, and that means I kind of like a sales engineer, but I really just get to tinker and play with all of our toys and new software builds and try to break things. So it is a lot of fun. But Neat is a company that's relatively new. We're a startup for all intents and purposes. We were founded in 2019 and kind of had our coming out party at Zoomtopia 2019. And as you might imagine, we kind of came from the roots of Zoom. We were built out of some conversations there, but our team, even though Neat is new, our team has been around and really been pioneers in the video conferencing space for years. So companies like Kodian and later Tamberg, some of our leadership teams were part of their leadership teams. They were both kind of, Tamberg ultimately bought Kodian, and then Cisco bought Tamberg. And so through the team's time at Cisco, they got to know Eric Yuan, the founder and CEO at Zoom, who was also a WebEx and ultimately Cisco person. And so through the years, our team kind of split off into two from the Cisco side and created companies like Akano and Pexip, who were both kind of the software interop solutions. And Akano was later acquired, believe it or not, by Cisco, and Pexip's still going today. And so our team kind of had those conversations with Eric Yuan as Zoom was being built, and Eric said, hey, Zoom is really taking off. We have this really intuitive, easy to use software solution. It's great at the desktop level, the mobile application, super intuitive. But when we get into the conference room, things are a little clunky. We have all these disparate manufacturers, parts, and off-the-shelf hardware that's kind of pieced together to create this Zoom room experience. And he said, hey, guys, you've got a strong, rich history in building hardware and software solutions around video. Would you be willing to kind of get the band back together and create something purpose-built to run Zoom? And so our team said, yeah, we're up for the challenge, kind of got back together and formed Neat. And shortly later in 2019, we had our first device, which I'm speaking to you on, the Neat Bar. So a lot of excitement. We've since obviously partnered with Microsoft, which is what we're here to mainly talk to you about today. But looking forward to partnering up with you all more and hearing more from Daniel.
Excellent. Thank you, Josh. So today we're talking about a concept that I'm sure many of you have heard, the concept of hybrid work. There's an interesting paradox when we talk about hybrid work. When Microsoft published a study they do every year called the Work Trend Index, the finding found that 73% of the people and workers say they want flexible remote work option. But at the same time, 67% of the employees tell us they want more in-person collaboration. So we see that dual demand. We want to work from home, we want flexibility, but we don't want to only work from home. We want to be in an office. We want to be in a position where we can see and collaborate in person as well. And that's what we call the hybrid work paradox. Satya Nadella, Microsoft CEO, said, everything becomes more complex, not less complex, when we factor hybrid work. And I'm sure over the last 2.5, 3 years, we all witnessed what that complexity has become. To compete in this new world of hybrid, leaders of organizations have to embrace extreme flexibility in when, where, and how people work. And that's important. That we see that happening across many organizations in the US and around the world. And that's truly a new operating model. And this operating model brings people, places, and processes, right? And we need to think about those three components as that new operating model that leader and organization need to master and develop to win and to be successful in this work of hybrid, where we have employees that want to participate but want also flexibility. So today we're going to focus on the places. This is one of the components. Obviously, we'll have other webinars, and we'll talk more about people and processes in other topics. But today is all the focus about places. The shift to hybrid also requires that we transform our physical place. And don't think just about the conference room. The entire place and the office as we know it is shifting. We can rely solely on shared physical location to collaborate, connect, or build that social capital. We need places. It's still very important. People still want to come together to collaborate, brainstorm, share experiences together. And the key is to build flexibility in every space that bridge that gap between the physical and the digital world. And we need to design spaces that are as much for people not in the room that the people that are in the room. And that's a very, very important point that we're going to talk more about today. And of course, safety is paramount, right? So we have to think about safety in the workplace as well. When we think about, the world of Microsoft Teams, and Josh said that they grew up from Zoom, and many, Zoom was a known product before the pandemic, obviously grew up tremendously since COVID. But Microsoft Teams had the same success, right? We've seen a tremendous adoption. If we look back to 2019, there was roughly about 15 million of active users in Teams. We're now in the 50 to 100 million users of Teams every day, right? So we've seen staggering growth of Microsoft Teams around the usage of Teams around the world. Microsoft has thought a lot about office spaces, right? And they've designed something called Microsoft Teams Rooms. Those are rooms that are designed to be inclusive, and it's not just about technology. Think about it at the concept of a Microsoft Teams room. They're designed to be inclusive for everyone in the meeting, not just those in the conference room. And that's, again, very, very important. In a hybrid work model, we want to deliver solution and technology that ensure remote attendees feel included, right? Virtually have a seat at the table, even so they're not physically in the room. In the future, we're going to see conference room evolving both physically, in terms of the technology, to create a more immersive experience between people attending in person and those who are remote. In summary, when we think about the future of room, meeting room will be designed for everyone. You can see here on the screen a lot of different setup, cool-looking rooms. And meeting room will be designed for everyone, including those not in the room. Remote attendees will be empowered to be as present and collaborated as those in the room. And the future of meeting will deliver this very immersive experience in terms of both video, spatial audio, where everyone can sit face to face, even with remote participants. This experience can be designed, and that's important, for any room of any size. And you see here, we have a large conference room. We have a whiteboard that's sitting in a collaborative space that can be moved. We have devices that tells you the status of the room. Can you walk in? Is it being booked? And lastly, you have small panel, like this neat panel here on the screen, that highlight essentially the ability to have a small huddle room where you can walk in, log into the device, do your meetings, walk out, and then, on the touch of a button, you can join one of those meetings. So when you think about leading in the hybrid work, I'm now going to share some hybrid or best kept secret about hybrid work. They're not really secret, but sometimes they're going to debunk some myth, right? Things we don't always understand when we think about hybrid work. So when you think about traditional video meetings, the one that you probably doing, right? Maybe the one you're on today, the one you've attended over the last few weeks, few months, few years. What's good about traditional video meetings is it gives flexibility, right? We've all seen that during the pandemic and even post-pandemic. You know, employees can work from anywhere, right? You can be in a coffee shop, you can be at home, you can truly be in your car. I'm unfortunately taking a lot of meetings while driving. I don't often turn my video on, but I can dial in for the sound, right? And the flexibility it gives companies the opportunity to hire employee outside of their local market. We've seen a lot during COVID where our team, we started hiring people in all geography, right? Not specifically where we had an office. What's good about video meeting is, you know, traditional video conference is we can have meetings too, right? High-level discussion to get everyone on the same page. And I don't know about you all, but I feel like for the last 3 years, I've been spending my days in meetings all day long, right? You know, and that's sort of what we've seen evolve as we get into this hybrid world. Traditional video meetings also are good for one-on-one collaboration, right? I'm sure you have colleagues that you want to interact, and we all know, turn your video on. It's a best practice. I'm pushing everyone to always have their video on so we can see, right? We can interact, we can see the mood, we can feel, you know, better connection with a video meeting. Now, what's bad with those traditional video meetings? One is it's hard to connect, right? You know, we're all missing this sort of water cooler. I can walk in the office, talk to people, right? You know, in a video meeting, you have to just make the effort to go in a meeting, right? Or call someone, right? It's really hard to have true team collaboration. So think for a moment, you know, you have 8 people in a meeting, right? In an office, in a conference room, and 10 people outside. You know, it's hard to really collaborate, right? You feel like the people maybe that are, you know, in the conference room may talk over each other, and then you're remote and you're not following the conversation. Maybe the audio doesn't pick up, right? And you don't know when to speak, right? Because you don't feel like a sense of meeting equality when you're remote, right? And then when the meeting is over, the conversation ends, right? No, people don't talk about it. Hey, we move on to the next meeting, right? So that's bad, and that's something that you know we're all struggling with. We all know that, you know, there's been a statistic that when you have in-person meeting, you're more innovative, right? And I've been encouraging my team that, you know, as many meetings we can do remote, let's encourage to be in person whenever we can. If you're doing mentoring, it's really hard to do it remote, right? FaceTime is good. And we all know, how do we build culture, right, on a traditional video meeting? What else have we learned about hybrid work? Did I go too far? There we go. What else have we learned? We've learned that, you know, most workers and employees have demonstrated a preference for the hybrid model. The study here from CharterWorks from a few months ago said that the quit rates are 30% less for hybrid worker. That's a staggering statistics, right? In this world of massive, you know, quit or quiet quitting or people leaving left and right. So, you know, being able to reduce the turnover is critical. And, you know, hybrid work has driven better retention for people with flexibility. We also know that, and that's probably counterintuitive, that the study have showed us that the ability to work from home have equated to an 8% increase in pay, right? Because we're retaining people, and that's often counterintuitive. And also, hybrid workers are more effective, 3 to 4% than their in-office colleagues. Why? Because, hey, we have less commute. We can start and end whenever we can. We can start earlier. We can end earlier. We take shorter lunch because you're walking, but you take more break, right? So you have a better work-life balance when you enable hybrid work. In addition, you know, and that's very interesting, right? So when you think about, you know, hybrid work, you know, all demographic, age, and races like that, right? You know, it's across the board, right? Young, old, you know, all different demographics likes working from home. That is a very strong preference, again, backed by CharterWalk's study for people with kids, for women and minorities, right? And when you think about that, and that's a fact, right? We're not making this up, right? But when you think about that, for the company that are trying to force a full return to the office, they will likely see a higher attrition in this group, right? And guess what? That's a challenge, right? That's a challenge maybe 2-3 years down the road. That's a potential, liability or lawsuits waiting to happen, right? And that, when you think about the possible consequences, in people in these groups will be promoted less, right? And there's a potential to destroy the culture, right? If we're not able to retain a diversified workforce because there's a preference for certain demographics to want to be in a hybrid work environment. Now, again, CharterWalks did that study and said, if done right, and I insist in the word done right, offering hybrid work is a huge profit center for a forward-thinking organization, right? Working from home is seen as a perk, right? You can attract people. As a matter of fact, when we interview folks, this is the first thing that people ask us, right? Do I need to come to the office? Do you enable remote work? And by the way, we've been doing that in my team at Withum Digital way before COVID. We had this concept of remote work. Obviously, the technology wasn't where it is today, but we've been embracing the concept of, let's be remote and hybrid whenever we can. And for those folks, they will see that as, maybe I'm not going to have as much increase, or I'm not going to see as much promotion financially, but working from home is more important for me, right? That's a perk, right? I see it as a benefit for me. This increase in productivity will directly align with revenue and possibly, and of course, profit, right? As your costs remain constant, and probably and possibly lowering your cost by enabling work from home. And then there's, of course, a huge cost saving of being able to retain your employees. So what are most large US organizations doing? This is a study from the workfromhomeresearch.com. Yes, there is a research company focusing on the work from home. You can go to their website and check this study. Most large or even medium-sized US organizations are planning team or company organized hybrid solution, right? Working from home on select days. That's very common. 1 day, 2 days, 3 days, definitely not 5 days. By the way, what's interesting too is we used to be Friday in the office, and Fridays are not good days, right? It's not that anymore, right? It's mostly like a Tuesday, Wednesday, or Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Tuesday, Thursday. We've seen a lot of variation of that theme. 2 to 3 days seems to be common across many organizations. Most companies, and that's interesting too, are not planning to downsize office space, or at least I would say not yet. Many organizations are rethinking their space. How can we rebuild our space to account for this hybrid work concept where people will only come 2 or 3 days a week, right? So what's out in that concept? Out is the 100% in-office mandates. I know many companies are still doing that, but that's really not what workers and employees want, and clearly not what forward-thinking organizations want. What's out too is individual desk or assigned desk. What's out too is tall wall cubicles, right? So we're seeing more open spaces, right? And what's in is remote and hybrid work. We see 2-3 days of office, open lounge, and you see some picture here. Lots of open lounges where you can actually collaborate and see each other. Lots of meeting rooms of various sizes, well equipped. And we're soon going to see a great demo of what you can do in those spaces. Short or no wall desk, and a lot of privacy booths, right? So you need places where you can go have a call, then you go back, and then you have a place where you can hang with people, collaborate, and drive innovation truly, right? So that's what we're seeing, sort of this reorganization. Many companies have done that, we're on that path way before the pandemic, right? Our space is configured like that, and was configured like that 3.5 years ago, right? So you have to think about your office space, not necessarily downsizing, but absolutely rethinking how it's organized. So with that, I'm going to pass it on to Josh, and I'm excited because we've been working with Neat for about 6-9 months now. Neat is one of those companies that is innovative in nature, right? They came out to the marketplace with the concept of we're going to change the way company thinks about video conferencing. We're going to embrace those concepts of hybrid and meeting equality, and we're going to think about cost-effective ways to equip your conference room, right? Most of what you're going to see that Josh is going to show you can be installed by all of you, right? You don't need to have, an audio-visual equipment and spend thousands and thousands of dollars to equip your room. All of those devices are ready to go, mostly wireless. They can just be mounted on the wall, and boom, you're on a Teams meeting and all of that. So with that, I'm going to pass it on to you, Josh. And I'm going to stop sharing my screen so we can see you.
Yeah.
There
Awesome.
we go.
Thank you so much.
Spotlighting you too. There we go.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Daniel. And yeah, I think an amazing way to summarize what we've all been kind of living and seeing over the last 3 years here. It's been a wild ride, and you may have caught it when I was kind of giving the background of Neat, but we were born right kind of at the inception of this. We were shipping our first product at the end of 2019, the beginning of 2020, and so obviously nobody saw this coming, but a pretty decent time to roll out a product like ours. So, we have seen these same trends and everything, and obviously things have changed since the inception of Neat. But we set out to kind of attack a lot of these problems that Daniel eloquently laid out about the problems with traditional video. And if you look back at that history of our founders and our core team, they were parts of the standards-based endpoint kind of revolution. They built out this kind of SIP H323 codec, ecosystem that was popular enough to be acquired by Cisco, and then you notice that they kind of spun off to create these interop companies to bridge the gap between the desktop and these disparate standards. To bring them into the meeting room, and then they got back together to form Neat, which was just part of the natural evolution of what we've seen in video technology. And so the approach was really around consistency and simplicity, and so that's why we were born out of kind of the Zoom room concept. We wanted that native solution where you can replicate it over time, over many different size spaces, and ultimately provide a very intuitive and comfortable user experience. And Microsoft has focused on that with the Microsoft Teams room so much, and it's been amazing to be a part of that. So, all of our devices were built to be appliances and purpose-built devices. So rather than having racks full of gear to do, a bunch of different, things, we put them all together in one device, or a few different devices to target different room sizes and spaces. But the Neat bar that I'm talking to you on, it's a small device, and it's got my camera, it's got microphone array, it's got multiple speakers, it's got the power supply integrated into it, so you don't even have to worry about stashing a big power brick behind a display or anything like that. And then it's most of all, it's got your compute in there, so you don't need to connect up a PC or a codec or anything complex like that. Reduction of failure points is a big thing, and then again, just the simplicity. So deploying our stuff, like Daniel said, I don't want to question anybody's technical aptitude on here, but the Neat devices were designed to be easy to deploy and easy to manage. And so we took a page out of the consumer playbook and designed our devices with a very intuitive kind of out of the box experience and setup. And so once you unbox a system from Neat, it's going to have some basic instructions on there. Plug this into the wall, and once this powers up, this is a Neat pad, which is our kind of dual purpose controller and scheduler. But when you do, it's going to say, how do you want to set this up? Would you like to set it up as a controller or a scheduler? And if you say controller, it's going to say, do you want to set it up with a Neat bar, a Neat board, or a Neat bar Pro? And so you select these, and then it's going to tell you exactly, okay, you're going to need this piece to wall mount it, and you're going to need these tools. And it literally walks you through and shows you these animated renderings to intuitively install this stuff. And so, I've been in the AV industry for a couple decades now. I'm a big AV nerd. For me, skipping those instructions was part of the fun, but we have a lot of neat employees that aren't tech savvy, and they've all been, huge champions of how simple it was to set up. And so that is obviously one part, but we also wanted to make sure that everything was natural for those on the far end, as well as locally. So like Daniel said, a lot of the benefits of the video is kind of lost on the people local. You're really outfitting your rooms to give a good experience to the far end as well. And so assuming they have good quality equipment on their end, your experience should be good as well. But it is something where we wanted to design solutions that allowed people to act naturally and behave naturally. And that was really kind of the core of video conferencing and collaboration, is being able to to take care of some of those things that historically you'd have to kind of huddle up in the same room to accomplish, but be able to do it, from different places in the world, and kind of bridging the gap between those remote and in-office employees. And so, the natural behavior was a big thing. We didn't want people to have to, play around with the touch panel a lot, or pay attention to, which direction they were speaking, or where the microphones might be, or, gesture controls or anything. So really wanted to make it, very natural. And so the other big thing that Daniel, touched on as well, in the pandemic, we kind of had this big shift where the people in the meeting space or in the office, historically had kind of a leg up at those remote employees. I used to be kind of an outlier, and I was the one that was outside of our headquarters, and ultimately would be, the one kind of on the far end of video, like, don't forget about me, trying to get a word in. And then things really flipped during the pandemic. Everybody was remote, depending on your role, and so everybody got used to having, these nice, individual cameras and headsets, or individual, microphones and speakers. And the experience that gave everyone else in the call was to have these, kind of nice head and shoulder shots. Everybody was framed up in their individual frame. And then as people started going back to the office, the people in the meeting room were kind of the outliers. And so I kind of set the stage here to show, how Neat approached this. And so with our camera tracking technology, we have the ability to, in our AI, we're identifying, the people within the meeting space. And so you'll notice that my camera, if I just started walking or moving around in the camera view, it's going to track me. So I'm the only person in here. And so, it's identified, okay, there's a human shaped object. So we're using object recognition. So that means it doesn't matter. I could turn around and, start whiteboarding or something like that. I don't have to face the camera. We're not doing facial recognition. So again, it's just looking for the human silhouette. I can be quiet and it will still track me, because we're not using, speech triangulation or, speech localization or speaker tracking or anything like that. We're, again, looking for the human body, and that's ultimately how we are, tracking people. So, no face coverings or anything like that are completely fine. But this is, a fairly typical, not anything too exciting, being able to track somebody oddly pacing around in their home office. But the way we're able to do this is by kind of taking, this large canvas of a high resolution camera sensor, and we're able to kind of work within that canvas. And so if I kind of zoom out, this is my whole home office. You're seeing this is essentially everything that the camera on my Neat bar can see. And so obviously, if this was a meeting room, you'd have trouble, seeing different reactions and body language and stuff like that. So this isn't ideal, and we can obviously do better. So if I had other people here, and I'm going to enlist the help of a couple of cardboard cutouts here, because again, we are looking for the shape of the human body. So this one over here on my right is a creepy printout of a colleague of mine, Sean, and then this is Mr. Nicolas Cage. I'm not sure where he's been, but he's got some sort of midlife crisis going on or something. But you know, this you may have noticed as I brought my cardboard buddies in here, it framed us as tightly as possible. So you know, it ignored some of the other parts of my office. You know, you can it's better than this. You're cutting out some of the stuff that's not important, but you know, it's still not good. You know, I'm smaller than Nicholas and Sean, who are up closer, and so our R&D team said, hey, we can do better than that. And so that's where we came up with Neat Symmetry. And so this is Neat Symmetry. This is our patented solution for providing kind of meeting equity, or that equitable experience to people that are in the meeting room, as well as people that aren't in the meeting room. And so again, we're using AI to do this. We're using you know, a single static camera, so less failure points. We don't have robotics and a bunch of stuff like that, additional failure points. But it also means, you know, we don't have those moving parts and cameras to you know, be moving and identifying these people. So we're all doing it from that single, you know, high resolution camera. So you notice I can walk around my office, I can sit down, it's going to track me independently. So again, natural behavior and not having to think about things. So our AI is really doing almost all of the decision making here. And you'll notice that if I switch locations with my pretend participant here, we actually changed locations in the view that's being sent over to you all. So that way, if we turn to speak to each other, or, you know, I put my arm in their frame, you don't have limbs flying in from different directions. People aren't turning away from each other. So again, it makes it natural for us here locally, but also you on the far end, you still have that kind of context of the layout of the room. So generally speaking, we on the device I'm on, we go up to, we recommend it up to about 10 participants. So perfect for huddle rooms and small to medium conference rooms. And you know, if I had more participants or more cardboard cutouts here, the first four kind of areas of interest would show up like you're seeing now, this kind of vertical, almost portrait orientation. And then once a fifth came in, you would see 3/2, so on and so forth until 4/4. So we'll go to 8 individual frames on our bar and board devices. And I say frames because we can add multiple people within those frames. So, you know, I said 10 participants is pretty much where we recommend this, but 8 frames. So you'd have 2 pairs of people within those frames. But it's going to be more of the you know, kind of square, the Brady Bunch view that you almost get with a typical you know, gallery view in Teams. And so our Neat Bar Pro, which is intended for larger spaces, will actually go up to 3 rows of 5, so 15 individual frames, and we recommend that one up to about 30 participants, so 2 per frame. Ultimately, if you go beyond that, our AI is going to recognize it. It's going to go ahead and revert back to a group frame shot, because you know, we want to avoid setting out the, you know, recreating the issue we set out to solve. We don't want to turn those participants back into ants or anything like that. So one thing I mentioned that we are using, you know, AI to do most of the decision making. So there's not a whole lot of thought that needs to go into things by the end user. If I were to you know, essentially you can disable auto framing, you can do group auto framing, or you can do individual auto framing or symmetry. But there is one important thing that we do offer up to end users. And I will show that now, hopefully. So if I open a framing boundary, and hopefully you can see this on the far end, it's going to open the camera extents of my Neat board back here. And what you're seeing, I've got these sliders. One of them is labeled width, one of them depth, and that gives me the ability to adjust those kind of limits or virtual boundaries to determine who's a part of the meeting and who isn't. So this is really the only kind of calibration or configuration that you need to do for the symmetry solution, but you'll notice, or hopefully you can, Nicolas Cage back here is without or beyond the limit I just set. So he's got a red square around his face. I've got a green square around my face. If Sean was in the frame, he would have a green square as well because he's within that frame. And then if I close this out and join this call from the board, it would track me around and anybody kind of within that virtual boundary, but it would ignore others. So this is big if you had, say, a Neat board that was on a mobile cart and it was going to change environments, or maybe you're going to put it in a cafeteria or something like that. You don't want to pull people in that are, eating their salad or anything like that. They probably wouldn't be very happy. But another big use case is glass. If you have glass, windows in a conference room, it's going to identify human-shaped objects outside of the meeting room. And so being able to, kind of define the areas that you do want it to pick up and where those meeting participants is important. If somebody's going to be walking down the hall and kind of, parking it, you don't want to pull them in and send them to the front. And so that is Neat symmetry and essentially how Neat set out to help provide that meeting equity to users that are going into the office. And so having this kind of technology and comfortable to use, easy to use, quick to get going, that is a huge part of attracting and retaining that talent, like Daniel was mentioning. That is something that if you start dragging people back to the office and their meeting experience drops off drastically, rather than just clicking a button on their laptop, now they have to go in and fiddle with cables and type in different URIs and stuff like that. They're not going to be super thrilled, and they're going to be asking why they had to go back. So providing a solution where you can walk into the room, press a join button, and get off to the meeting without thinking about it and wasting time, we feel is a really big deal. So Microsoft Teams Rooms was kind of the obvious next step for Neat, and we are really excited to be partnering with Microsoft and with them. I'll kick it back to Daniel in case he has some additional items or questions, maybe. Oh, Daniel, I think you might be muted.
There we go. Thank you. And yes, thank you, Josh. I really appreciate you coming in and giving us some insight about the Neat approach and some great technology. I even learned some things I didn't know about, so that's fantastic. We're really excited to be partnering with Neat. I think we've seen a surge of demand over the last 9 months about companies that want to be able to make their room more equitable, more flexible, and easy to use, right? I have a story about visited a client, I'm not going to give the name, a few weeks ago. They were just coming back in the office. So we sat in a conference room. I had a few colleagues coming and dialing in, and it took us almost 25 minutes to get their all traditional video equipment to work, right? And clearly they haven't used it in a while and it doesn't work, right? So I think that there's, if you all think about your office space and you want to make it better, you need a room where you can walk in, push a button, join a meeting, and everyone is in an equal footing. And that's really what we've been providing to our clients with Microsoft Teams Room, and we're so excited to be able to partner with Neat. So in summary, what is the Neat approach, and what really have convinced us that they are a partner we should focus on? We've done work traditionally with Polycom and Logitech and Crestron and other fancy, complex solution as well. Neat is really a better way to meet on Microsoft Teams. That's really how it sums it up. Number one is the setup, right? When you think about your even your Polycom and Logitech, they have things that are easy to use, but even those devices are not easy to set up, right? Neat is simple. Like I said, you don't need us to install them. We're happy to help. We're happy to give you best practices. But truly, you follow the quick start guide, you install it, you configure Teams, and it's up and running and ready to go, right? So very simple setup. Even more complex scenario, I know the Neat Bar Pro now supports external speaker and microphone. Even that's easy to set up, right? So if you have an existing audio setup, there's a chance that you can reuse that, very sophisticated audio setup. But let's be honest, I was looking at you, Josh, when you were talking and had your back to the camera, right? Your sound did not change for a second, right? So that's something to keep in mind, right? We're talking about sophisticated audio capability here. Even so, there was one microphone in the room. It didn't matter which direction Josh was talking. So extremely simple setup, plug and play, and your rooms are equipped. The second thing that we're excited about Neat is called symmetry. Now, you probably have heard Microsoft saying, we are going to provide this capability natively with Teams, and they will. What Neat has done is they've done it before, right? And they have some additional hardware-based technology built in their solution that's going to make that capability better, right? One thing we know is going to come soon from Microsoft is the ability to attribute the name of someone that has a frame, right? So not only are you going to see their frame, you're going to be able to see their name next to it as well. That will come soon from Microsoft Teams. But Neat symmetry is what gives you this ability to provide that meeting equity, right? So now you got in this screen, you see 6 people in the office. They all look like they're, coming in from equity and maybe from different places as well, right? The auto framing is phenomenal, right? You've seen Josh walking around. It's not, it's really giving you that sense that it's framing correctly for the people speaking and the people that express interest in the meeting. When you think about the audio in the room, that is critical too, right? Neat has advanced AI to enhance the pickup of the voice, to filter noise and fan and air conditioning and heat or whatever and keyboard clicking, and detect this multi-double, triple talk, and then maybe Josh can tell us more about that feature, without interruption.
Yeah, and that is something that is kind of a novel idea, but one of the things, and not to get too technical, but one of the downsides of acoustic echo cancellation, which is essentially the technology that's removing the far end's audio to avoid it being sent back to them and creating an echo, is that we kind of have created these gates where there's only one person able to speak at one time. And so for one, that is not a natural experience. If you're all in the same meeting room, obviously you can speak over to each other. It might be rude, it might not be recommended. It's not easy for other people to hear, but if your CEO wants to speak up and get his point or her point across, we feel they should be able to do that. And so when we were developing our AAC algorithm, that was something that we wanted to make sure, if possible, we could address. And so we did. And that means if people are, in a meeting on 2 different Neat devices, then they can talk over each other. It's double talk, and it's nice because you don't, if you have a slower internet connection and you have a little bit of latency added to the call, it may be really difficult to kind of find a chance to break in and start speaking and giving your perspective. And so again, pretty novel idea, being able to speak over people, but it is something that we thought was important to provide that kind of natural meeting experience.
Fantastic, thank you, Josh. There's also a capability called Neat Sense, right? Which built in the devices, the system will pick up the environment around it, the air quality, the temperature, the humidity, microphone, and the audio sort of environment. What is it? Is it noise behind? Is it in a closed conference room, or is it in an open space? Right. So the system will detect that. The camera will count, do object recognition, depth sensing. Obviously, we'll monitor the ambient light if it's a heavy room with heavy light or a dark light, and it will adjust to the lighting condition. Have built-in capability to facilitate the installation too. You see during the demo this concept of neat boundary, right? So, when you set up the device, you're able to define what is the boundary that we want this camera to affect, right? So that, the frame grouping just stay within those boundaries, right? So if you have someone walking in the conference room, it won't be picked up until that person is actually inside the frame and the boundaries, right? And that is a critical element of good video conferencing. When we think about Neat again, what attracted us as consultants and company driving digital transformation on the Microsoft platform is the availability of device for different type of room. Anything from a focus room, there's a product called Neat Frame, which is great. It could be used in an executive office if you have a CEO or leaders that don't want a computer to join the meeting. They want a purpose-built device with great audio and great capability. Neat Frame is phenomenal. If you have huddle room where you need a small device like you see here on the screen, great device as well, great capability where you can look and essentially log in, hot desking to this device, take your 2 or 3 meetings, log out, and you're up and running. Of course, we talk about collaboration room. I have one of those outside my office. I often do whiteboarding. I love whiteboarding, right? So I can take those meetings in my collaboration space here, join the meeting, whiteboard. It says my whiteboard. I'm good to go. I go back to my office. I pick up the whiteboard, and then I can keep walking along, right? So great device here. Easy to use. Plug in and literally install in an hour and ready to go. We talked about the huddle room. This is a Neat bar. Again, you can have it on the screen, attached next to a monitor, and then you can have a wireless pad, right? So virtually all you have is power the pad, power the TV with the bar, and you are ready to go. And this same device will work with a larger meeting space, and that's the Neat Bar Pro, which is the same, except it's larger and supports multiple monitors and even multiple devices in the room, etc. So that will cover very large conference room. So in summary, you can see in one screenshot here almost the entire offering of the Neat product family. Now, last but not least, let's talk about what's coming. As you've seen for this demonstration, I'm amazed with the innovation that Neat has done. While they look like they're doing the same thing of their competitor, they're clearly a step ahead in many directions. And we have something new coming. And Josh, I haven't seen it, so I'm going to let you talk about it. It's called Neat Center. Tell us more about that.
Yeah. So we're super excited about Neat Center. I wish it was going to be available sooner, but we just announced it last month, and it is our next addition to the Symmetry experience. And so Neat Center is a companion device. It will pair up with Neat Bar Pro, or a Neat Board. So it isn't a standalone device that you would deploy on its own, but it doesn't have any kind of physical connections back to those devices. Again, just like the pad, it's a PoE connection, and so a single cable and very flexible. And ultimately, the intent is to provide some new perspectives into the Symmetry experience. So over on the left, you see a fairly typical group of participants facing a Neat board. They're engaged with the far end, and everybody is facing the far end, and that Neat board's camera and our AI is recognizing that, and it's framing them up with Symmetry individually based on that camera view. But in the second, that middle diagram there, you see that they're kind of ignoring the far end, and then they've turned their attention to each other locally, and Neat's AI recognizes that, and it switches automatically their perspective. And so rather than being picked up and framed by the front of room camera, they're being picked up and framed by that center of room camera. And so again, this is dynamic. If you think back to the frames with me and my cardboard colleagues here, you'd effectively keep the same frame, but then when you turn, you would see the person's profile or side profile for a few moments before the camera switched in that same block. So again, the far end isn't seeing a lot of movement and this kind of kaleidoscope type, seasick feeling. It's just a very simple, switch between that video feed. And then on the right, you see kind of a combination where a presenter, someone stood up, maybe they were whiteboarding or annotating over content on the board, but they are, more in that kind of student teacher kind of configuration there. And then again, the Neat Center is going to recognize that. It's going to pick that person up from there. So really, these are 3 different scenarios, but this could all be in the same, 10-minute meeting. So again, going back to the natural experience and people being able to behave naturally without worrying about where they are in relation to camera, microphones. All that stuff is going to be improved even more once we start shipping Neat Center next year.
Great, and obviously they'll be certified for Teams and Zooms and others. So great segue to a few questions in the Q&A here. I know that we have a lot of questions. I see a few here in the chat, which I'm going to start answering. Does that work with Teams? How about GoToMeeting and Zoom? So the Neat devices, when you turn them on, can be either configured as a Zoom room or Teams room. Obviously, we prefer Teams, but both works, right? So when you set it up as Zoom or Teams room, that's your native experience, the way it's going to look and behave. Both Zoom and Teams room support what's called direct guest join from other technology. And today, both Teams and Zoom support joining each other from each room, but also support Cisco WebEx. I know GoToMeeting is coming. Microsoft did announce an agreement with Citrix where they will support GoToMeeting native join in Teams room. I don't know about Zoom, but soon you'll be able to, from a Microsoft Teams room, to join a Cisco WebEx, Citrix GoToMeeting, and a Zoom meeting as well. All you have to do is invite the room. It will detect that it's Zoom or WebEx or GoToMeeting, and will switch the interface to join those remotely as well. So that's exciting. If you want other meetings, obviously that's a bit of a problem because there's no support native. But Josh, tell me if I'm wrong, but those devices can be also plugged in with a USB and be used as a external camera and external speakerphone, right?
Yeah, exactly. So we do support what we call BYOD mode. It's something that we felt obligated to develop around and put out there, but it's something that we didn't feel was truly a neat experience because it does require plugging cables in and possibly selecting things. There's a lot more interaction necessary to do that, but if you are a team shop 99% of the time, but you have to join quarterly Blue Jeans calls or something like that, it's a fantastic way of being able to utilize that equipment. And so just like Daniel said, you plug in an HDMI cable and a USB cable to the bar of the board. We're expecting it on Bar Pro early next year. But you would connect up the HDMI and the USB cable. Our device is going to recognize that host connection on USB, and it's effectively going to flip over. So you're going to see your laptop screen on the, or your laptop screen is going to be mirrored to the display. And then in your laptop, you're going to have the ability to select the Neat bar, your camera, your microphone, and speakers. And so this is an amazing way to get the Neat experience. So again, the audio that you heard, the camera tracking and Neat symmetry, since it's all happening at a Neat level and a device level, it's supported in native Zoom, native Teams, as well as BYOD. So you could join Daniel's brand new videoconferencing.com and you could still get that symmetry experience just over USB. So again, not a super intuitive, neat experience, but it does get you into those calls if you're in a bind.
Excellent. The second question is I don't know if it's Teams or Neat, but is Teams or Neat approved for the federal government environment? So Teams Room are certified for GCC environment. GCC moderate for sure, GCC high, maybe, depends. But on the GCC moderate environment, Microsoft Teams Room are certified and available. And I suppose the Microsoft Neat device is available. I know that many of you may have seen a picture of President Biden in the background with a Neat board on a meeting, right? So clearly that tells us it is supported. So the answer is absolutely. GCC High may be a bit different. There may be requirements for secure meeting that both Microsoft Teams and Neat cannot support depending on the type of meetings, but overall GCC is supported. Am I right, Josh?
Yep, you nailed it. So GCC High is something that we are potentially working on. A lot of times in the DoD and those types of environments, you do require TAA compliance, and so that's something that we don't currently have on our products, but we are working towards that. Our public sector lead is pushing hard and working hard on that. So we hope to have something next year. And the GCC High from Teams Room on Android standpoint is not current either. So hopefully by the time Microsoft can support it, our hardware will be compliant as well. And so yeah, JITIC and stuff like that may be a little bit later before we can go through that evaluation. But we're hoping to have some TAA compliance in the near term.
Great. One more question on federal government. Are you on the GSA schedule?
So I don't know that, I'm fairly confident that Neat isn't on there directly. So I'm not sure if Withum carries that, and that's something that, could be partner driven, but I don't believe we are today.
And we can certainly assist in that regard as well. Sasha, are you telling me this other question in the Q&A as well?
Yeah, I have one more. We are at the top of the hour, but one more, Josh, for you. On the device behind you, is the large screen part of the whole appliance, or is it just the part that looks like the sound bar?
Yeah, I wish I could turn it around because it's beautiful from all angles, but it is, that's a fantastic question. And the answer is it's all one device, but to expound, it's using the same components as the Neat bar. So it's got the same 12 megapixel camera, the same 5 mic array, the same speaker system, the same compute, but it's not bolted on or anything like that. This is all part of the same physical chassis. And like I said, it's beautiful even from the back. And so, effectively, we took the components in the Neat bar and put them in this all-in-one, form factor. And so this is a 65-inch 4K multi-touch display, and it's perfect for Microsoft Whiteboard. And then, if you did leverage the BYOD function on board, you'd be able to, fully manipulate and control the laptop or the connected PC directly from it. So it is a different device, but it is, the same components. And just to add one more thing, if 65 inches isn't ideal for your meeting space, you can connect a third-party touch monitor to the USB port on the bar or the Bar Pro and get the same kind of experience from that. So it is, you could have a modular solution very similar to it, but this is not modular.
Great. And then one last thing, you might have mentioned it, I'm not sure, what operating system do the devices run on?
Yeah, so all of our devices run on an Android, so they fall into the MTR on Android device classification, and it's something that we're using the Android open source project, the AOSP, but it is very streamlined and bare bones, and then we've built on top of that. So it's a very secure OS. It's not, you don't have access to Play Store, you can't sideload applications or APKs or anything like that, or even run ABD, so or ADB. So it is Android at a base level, but it's not the same as like MDM or mobile device management.
And if I can add something, Josh, many of our clients sometimes are concerned of not having Windows-based device. The Android OS is running Microsoft Teams Room for Android, which obviously will support any security needs of your organization, including enrolling in Intune and endpoint as a security manager, restricting access with conditional access and all the likes, right? So from a security standpoint and a remote management standpoint, it's as good as any Windows devices or Mac devices in your organization. You can apply security policies, including remote management and remote patching and updates and all of that to those devices.
Absolutely.
Awesome. Well, we're at the top of the hour. Thank you so much for the demo and all the information, and thank you everyone for joining. We'll send a recording and the slide deck out, and please.
Thank you, everyone. And, as an offer to all of you on this call today, thank you for joining. If you have any questions, any concerns, any needs, we're happy to discuss your needs. We can have Josh and I on the phone, and we can assess where you are and how we could help you. So thanks again for joining. Thank you, Josh, for this great demonstration.
Yeah, thanks, Daniel, Sasha. Thanks, everybody.